Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in around the world for Khenpo Tenzin's introductory talk on the preliminary practices. And we hope you'll all listen carefully. And at the end of the talk, I will be going over the specifics on the structure of the retreat and the timing of the schedules and so forth.
We will begin our talk this day, afternoon, morning, night, whatever it is for you, in our yellow Garchin Institute prayer book, and we will begin on page 1. All mother sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. All mother sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. All mother sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. For that purpose, until I attain Buddhahood, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Until death, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. From today until this time tomorrow, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. I take refuge in the Buddhas until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. Just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed along the Bodhisattva's path, so shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path. I take refuge in the Buddhas until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. Just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed along the Bodhisattva's path, so shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path. I take refuge in the Buddhas until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. Just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed along the Bodhisattva's path, so shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. An infinite array of worlds, each with 4 continents and the wealth of infinite oceans of realms. If I bring them all to mind and offer them without exception, please hold with compassion all the beings they contain. my body, enjoyments, and whatever I own, my aggregates, elements, and sense sources, my aspirations now and in times to come, as well as everything I grasp as mine, by offering them all may I be blessed with the end of self-grasping. Completely liberated from the bounds of real and unreal, transcending the names and concepts of arising, cessation and abiding, coming and going, affirmation and denial, the supreme mandala is the natural state. By offering it, may I be blessed to attain the state of Buddhahood. Om Guru Deva Dakini Ratna Mandala Pratishta Swaha. Namo. To the Guru, the utter purity of all appearance and existence, I offer all appearance and existence arisen as the primordial ground. I supplicate you, may the three realms be completely liberated. Please grant blessings to empty samsara from its depths. Lord, with 5 omniscient wisdoms, crown ornament, kind one with loving nature, precious protector of beings, heart of all Buddhas, inexpressible by words or thought, I supplicate you from the core of my mind. Bless me from within the state of dharmata. Bless me to realize this mind, primordially pure and unborn as the unfathomable dharmakaya. Please turn the wheel of the dharma of the greater and lesser vehicles, and the teachings common to both, according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
Tangke to je jere son ra jenjama da je ponjamba zurje lumbo da verji bega shaje jarbe jadung guzan zar durjen janjen de lo naro da maba mala je gambo pamo ba jawan rogong ba kaju lama nam je da jon je dananda tsara dam je da lama laba la je so Lo son yun din jam zung ala wan din zhe don jin zhe be ge le zor da ge lo chu sun zho war sin jie lab de sur chu lam den zho war sin jie lab de sur lam zho wa ze war sin jie lab de sur zho wa yi xue san jia war sin jie lab de sur zhen jin za wa lam ma ji jie gu song do jie sin lang da 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 ge ju lam bu de da ge de ma dang sun jin jie dong jia jin bon zhe par sin jie lab de so tomar te la tsama la tini tampe chu drupa la garchin parche meyong wa tang tunjin ke tene lekpa cho tamje tene yongsun zombe tene molam tang tene da tere nga cho ngondro ke kachu da te tambo ngotu ndo je hya cha do yore tere da nga cho namjin ji ngondro sedu 추제 문도 다진 담보체 까카 저제 저 이게 장도 까카 시장과 된저제 산노망 요상 컨트롤 거요래 문도스 책때 보행나제 된저제 요래 인진나 나티나이 preliminaries 제체도 된저 건도가 데다 제 추시바데 토마게와 바르게와 타마게와리 대인장 당 훈로 시반데 토말 갈치와 바르트 갈치와 타말 갈치와 단데 모투 쇼고요레 모투 마주나 데네 토카요 마레 간다 갈침보 이미 하코코요 마레 데네 하코 차드 데네 주즈 밀라레바 수마나이 사마 조히바 잠제 메핀바 사마 주차드 사고고리스 사네야 사탕 히부고네 사나 된 소수주볼라 핑거요레 대인장 당아쪽에 토말 모투지 바당 바르드 냠린 거야게 데네 냉가데 다 베테나 인제 차도 요바레
So first, extend my prayers, and that the practice of the Holy Dharma will be without any hindrance, and that all the favorable conditions, all good conditions come together for the practice of the Dharma. And so today I'm going to give before we start with the real Ngondro preliminary teachings, first today I'm going to give an introduction to the Ngondro. And the term Ngondro, so it means in English the preliminaries. So as the term implies, it's something that we do before something else. So before the main part practice, before the actual Dharma practice or the actual main part of the practice, we train in preliminaries, which is similar to learning the alphabet before you can actually write something and so on. So that's the meaning of the preliminaries. And in generally speaking, the Dharma is said to be virtuous in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. And the Ngondro, the preliminaries, are important in the beginning and in the middle and in the end. And because of its importance, it's necessary to be introduced to it, because if one is not introduced to it, then one will clearly not understand it. And then if one doesn't understand it, then it is also of not much benefit. So Milarepa had said that, for example, it's just like eating food. First of all, only the fact that you know how to cook, that itself is not actually beneficial. You also have to taste the food, you have to eat the food, and you have to know how to. And only if you know how to eat the food correctly, only then will it benefit your body. And so for this reason, first we need to receive an introduction, and after that, so it's similar to eating food, then we also have to experience it and engage in practice.
Tene namba sanje bad dromjira wote kararis te karchim borwa sanje ke yontin ju de tambu kare jure tomar karchin rami sonla chosas ta tomar tas jancho ju de semti ne tene karchin rami sonla chosa si banda cha yong yore ta de indu sanje korang yang tambu kawa mamburen la ta kable jamne chosa drapajang dranang yo pare ngaso ti lamde rongkhin jirwa ta sanje ke kawa mambu kan chosa ba de ngaso laji chowa hira mi puwang de tangba yin yang sanje lo ni dong abja goror ke sanje de meche jing na kable ka che jabya ta de samang tang yo ba na sanje hiba de kawa ji yongkhin ji imba kawa ji sidu lugu gone dikpa, nga gun dikpa, yiji gun dikpa ma dagpa chi to tini chulambe zung jingin, hur zung jingin, zung zhu jingin ji yinba. Ta tini sar sagi kanyin marita jaga ke ta kedrop tanjil sanu tangwa yana. Tini tarate, naru penchin ke yungting tangpo juun tini 추서 de kawa juni je kepa naro pinchin yang jin semtsa jik dongwe suran de lama chinang tawar jinji lap si kajuba ke tambo gozong de ni naro pa ke yungting te jo ke yoremes naro pa kepa chimbori song mari naro pa ngunshi yore se ge yo mari pamje chimbori za trupta yore se ge yo mari tambo ni yungting jo te jo yong ko yore ta tini ma yon na nga so Milarepa la mapa loza kare songwari sina Milarepa nyingru la sanje timpa sokshin yos nyingru sidi ta ko kantar ngaranzo xa se xa kamne rupa la tona ya darong dambi chudu tola kawa ju ningki dandawa jik chada yore ta nga tsu di juba la hyongne nyamlin jinki sadi ta nga tsu ge je chosa bu kapsu tene zupa tangdulang ne nyamne chi gowa cha yang go yore ta ka ju ba chikbo mare pena pardin sacha balan somba na himba yidar sejute kandan dige ngondro ke nyamne ditone song yang go yore tega na yinke nyingma ba na tumong se ngondro tumi nang ngondro kantar longchin ning tek du so ngondro zo wen song yong go yore teni ta ka ju bala ngarang zo ta lodo namba yala so ba tang ta bu chu yala so ba ta so ko thone teni ta ngondro de song yong go yore teni gelo bala chance so ba yin yang teni jiu sum je lam ji ram ba la so ba te yun thar to na ngondro shi ba de nyamni mizin kin che jer nang ba mi so je yo mar de yang gu so 다 ngarang su kawa kanjin jong ke namba sanje pajin da yoba tenana ta ngondo nyamli meki mizin kinji yo mare ngondo gol ma sen kinji yo mares te me pa te kares ta karchin tunchin yim bjim sen de ne ten poda mambu tsam yore te nam yin ke nyamli ya na yo bares
So first of all, we need to, so for the foundation of the Buddhist practice, first of all, we need to see, it's important to see like the Buddha Shakyamuni and how he had become a Buddha. And so he, first of all, he gave first of all rise to bodhicitta. And having given rise to bodhicitta, he then accumulated, married, or gathered the accumulations for 3 endless aeons. And so the Buddha really is someone who has endured a lot of hardships for the sake of the Dharma. And in all this time of practicing, he then finally had purified all the obscurations of his body, speech, and mind. So he is someone who has practiced the Dharma with great diligence. He has made the greatest effort. For example, when we think about, even if maybe, since we are followers of the Buddha now, even though we can't really maybe conceive of the endless aeons of hardships that he endured, maybe that doesn't generate a particular feeling in us, but we can think, for example, that he was a person who was alive about 2,500 years ago. And even if we just look at this one lifetime, not all these aeons, but just this one lifetime, how much hardships he endured just in this one lifetime. So by even just looking at this one lifetime, we can see he is someone who really had endured a lot of hardships for the sake of the Dharma. And so that is one example. And then, for example, when we think about other great masters of India, for example, Naropa. Now, who spoke his qualities? Naropa Gyönden Sujuri.
Naropa Sundav Narsuk Sundav Vira. Naropa.
Naropa La Sola.
Naropa Korang so on the
Korang La.
Natsuk.
Again, so anyways, yeah, it's our we and it's Hakora. Some can't sorry.
Some can sense.
Anyways, yeah, it's not so sure who composed this prayer, but anyways, there's this supplication that we always recite, where we express the qualities of Naropa. So we say that, remembering your qualities of and having endured the 12 major and the 12 minor trials, the hardships, remembering the hardships that you endured again and again, like Guru Naropa, bless me that I may be realized like you, may I become like you. So that is what the qualities that are highlighted here in the supplication is the hardships. So we want to become like him because of the hardships he was able to endure too. So that's why we ask for his blessings. So basically we are not saying, Naropa, I supplicate you because you're such a great scholar, or I supplicate you because you have clairvoyant powers, or Naropa, I supplicate you because you're rich, or I supplicate you because you show signs of miracles or whatnot. No, we supplicate him because of the hardships that he endured for the sake of the Dharma. So that's the first thing that we say about someone like a master like that. Also, for example, at the time of Milarepa and Marpa, Marpa said about Milarepa that it is because of Milarepa's determination in the Dharma that in the future, the Buddha Dharma has a life force tree, so he will sustain the teachings. It is because of his determination, his determined practice. Milarepa, he dedicated his entire life to practice, and even to the point where he was so emaciated that he was just skin and bones, and he just still continued on to practice the Dharma. And especially Milarepa's lineage is the lineage that we are following, and therefore, especially for us, it is important that we engage in practice with an ability to endure hardships with patience. And so it's not just in the Kagyu lineage, of course. For example, in the Sakya lineage, this is also taught. For example, in the main kind of body of text dealing with the preliminaries in the Sakya lineage is the kind of Khenpo Tenzin, which is the kind of separating from like clinging entirely. That's the text basically. And in the Nyingma tradition, it is referred to as the outer common and the inner uncommon preliminary practices. One mainly practices according to the Longchen Nyingtik in the Nyingma. And in the Kagyu tradition, we practice the 4 thoughts that turn the mind away from samsara, and also we study the 4 dharmas of Gampopa and so on. And in the Gelugpa lineage, for example, depending on different mental capacities, there are 3 levels of the path, the stages of the path. And basically, there is not a single Buddhist tradition that doesn't practice the Ngondro, the preliminaries. They all do. So that is kind of like the one thing that all Buddhist practitioners practice. There's really no one who doesn't. In Tibet, for example, since everyone in Tibet basically is a Buddhist, in Tibet there is no one who wouldn't practice the Ngondro, at least say, there's no one who would say that you don't need the Ngondro, the preliminaries. Everyone recognizes the importance of the preliminaries, and that's why, because it's so significant and so important, many scriptures on the preliminaries, many commentaries have been composed.
Chusarji kawa junye jin kepa naro panji yang tin sun ti tsikje de joban ji tin sung gong jigden na yore ji tin sung gong sung ba res teni da den za nga zo je pen jutsu Milarepa tawla tsuna yang teni kong dikpa tsapchin sa yore tambo dikpa tsapchin sa ba de teni marpa la ninje mi pa mari de tani marpa ke ta kandan ru go do teni gongba yin de ta ju dikpa la ju ba je ji go ndo si ju ba la teni domsam je ji go ndo si ta domsam te teni yongwa la ta nin ru go yore nin ru de za teni ta ko kamba tanda malak semkar go to so yen ji ne teni yang de yen ji ne ta teni zubokan teni jap tanjela teni mas chon ta des kangan the bari de teni tanda ke kawa mambo che ji ngene we na ma pa la ti khang ba de mix che ke tam ni da che da wa khang ya yo ma re de Milarepa lang chi de tran ze bari teni ta nga rang zu ngondron den ze yong ban de ta ke pa da du bi ji wo chama ken da ting ngondro de to la nin din ze yo re ji tin sung gong ke dara semhundron de la nintin zu son chaja chimbong nga ding to bung yang nan song yore te den zang nga zo da andala nintin ji go yore ta nga zo nintin ji ban de kandan ro ji go si du perna jerumbo che si munro kum cha ji bo la mbom sun chu song a ya ba ri yore da mbom sun chu song a dara nga ro mbom che la go yore ba Mendra ji bolam bom job je ya nambaris. Mendra te ya na do kala ya na tana de ni chala thamne la mas do na tana ne te sang kawa je pare. Ta te ta je kale de nga sur je kale da wo je te no go de ka ni cha yong go yore se du. Ta sanje ta jancho samba tham je tham ke bo yin za o ta koran so la che thoma min ba ne sa ye dik ba tana jin do si. Ta dik ba tana ji yo ta te sa ba thabla dikpa de pas sabne mi pa yong ya chi do kare go da se du ta thomar chu tham je ge ma yi ta we Ngondro del ra do part teni ta chu de so nyamni ji yong de jin parche la so ba myong wa de ya Ngondro ra le do tharthok chi chu ke de ga an driven ra de min par si ba la ya ta min amrong wa de Ngondro de ri kya so ne teni ta Ngondro de ten ngarang sol nyamni le ya yong wa ri.
So that verse actually, this application to Naropa, was a verse composed by Jigten Sumgan, and that's the verse where he says, I supplicate to Naropa who endured many hardships, or to Naropa who endured many hardships, I supplicate you again and again, please grant your blessings that I may be realized like you. So now Milarepa actually was someone who he was quite sinful in the beginning. He did a lot of negative things. And so when he then came to rely on Marpa was quite harsh with him, but it's not that Marpa had no compassion for him, but Marpa was reflecting what can I do with this one? Because he's quite sinful. He's done so many things wrong. So what can I do to help him? He was thinking about how to help him. And so then he concluded that, first of all, he has to regret all the negative things he has done. And then he has to promise not to repeat those actions again, and so on. And then he also needs to have a lot of determination. So he came up with those qualities that Milarepa needed to develop. And then he made him develop these qualities by putting him through a lot of hardships. Now, for example, he made Milarepa build a 9-storied tower, like a tower with 9 stories, and again and again. And then he had him tear it down again and build again and so on. And so Milarepa kept building and tearing down houses. And in the end, his whole body, his back was full with wounds. And he was in a lot of pain. And it's not the case that Marpa really actually needed any of those houses, but he knew that was necessary for Milarepa to purify. And so that is why, like all the great masters of the past have said, that it's so important to make an effort in the preliminary practices. Also, Jigten Sumgan had said in the fivefold path of Mahamudra, songs of realization, that the preliminaries are so profound. So at the end of each verse, he said, you must make an effort. You must apply yourself with diligence in the preliminaries. Or, for example, Jason Kappa, he was known to have practiced the preliminaries a lot. For example, he did like 3,500,000 prostrations, right?
Bum the million. 100,000 times 100,000 35 gujara.
So it's 3,500,000, right? Isn't it? Like it's counting is a little different.
4 years.
Yeah, so it took him 4 years, right, to do the 3,500,000 prostrations. And so
million rinda.
Like
35 euro.
So
100,000
times 35.
Okay. It's good. Yeah.
Like you just say it different in English. Yeah. We don't say 3,500,000. In Tibetan, that's how you would say. You would say 3,500,000. It's just a little different.
Oh, nice.
But it's like saya sumra. Saya sumdang pum. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. It's definitely 3,500,000 prostrations in 4 years, and that's just the prostrations. For example, we do 100,000 prostrations, so he did 300. He did 3,500,000 prostrations, and for the mandala, where we also need to do 100,000, he did 1,800,000. So 1,800,000 of mandala offerings. And then the way he offered the mandala was with a like on the rock, on the hard rock. So like holding the mandala and like we would like cut into his wrist. So at the end he would have really wounded wrist just from the mandala offering. So if you think about that, the hardships that they endured, why is it that we are all put through all these hardships of the preliminaries? It's in a way a skillful means by the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And they also basically figure that these people have a lot of negativities. They have a lot of negative karma since beginningless time. What can we do to help them get rid of all this negative karma? And so then, thinking about how to purify our minds, then basically the Buddhas realized that this is what's needed. And then that's how the Ngondro, the preliminaries, came about as a foundational practice. So the Ngondro is the foundation of Dharma practice in the beginning. In the middle, having that foundation of the Ngondro, in the middle it helps one, so while one practices, it helps one's Dharma practice to be free from any obstacles. And in the end, in order to really gain the ultimate fruition of one's practice, it is completely necessary to have the Ngondro. Without that, it will not be accomplished. So for this reason, it's so important for us to practice the preliminaries.
Ningma ke tara lungchin ning tein tara nyamli nang ke tara ke ta nda nyamli yabu nang du ta hyun ndo du ta hyun du ta ke yop ha ko ra kang ba sa ji wa yop ke kang ba ye ni pha hyun ko ra yop kang ba ye nan zhen ne kang ba yun de phanang la pham phe ni yop ta ke yop yin ba la zhe
Di chak de ba yop de.
ja jing ni ta la
Cha ti kang ba la cha ro.
kang ba ja ma ne ke kang ba sa ji wa ta la大概叫撒超了没刚把子生意哇，刚把子啥？马里我做没刚把子啥，大概有你哇，刚把当不有了哇，刚把当不有，刚把你把的怕苹果了，他大熊个了，对你把了夹接个啦可才有嘞，蹲家你去脏啊，夹接啦蹲家脏你去脏啊，给这个金吃了他们这，这是金人工头都送了呀。的ning te nyam ni nang ke ta de so cha ma je anda ke chu ke je ngondro ya bo ya bar de ni ngondro la tin ne de ne tam be chu de so ke nyam ta to ba zar to zo na ta de la so ba ta rong ko na ba ke je de jinam de so gom ta na de san kar chim bo ke mari sung yo re kar chim bo se de la cha chi ya gom ya yo re so ta de kantar tanda be ne nyam ni nang ke yo paris.
In the Nyingma lineage, the Ngondro that is practiced is called the Longchen Nyingtik. And so it is said that the practitioners who practice the Longchen Nyingtik Ngondro really well, who have practiced it really well, who have a good foundation of the Ngondro. So the way they later realize the deities, so it's like that. So, okay, you have a horse. And so, how to say, you mount a horse, and when you, what's the thing you put your left foot in?
Stirrups.
The stirrups, okay.
Stirrups.
So the time it takes for your, the left leg, to put your left foot into the stirrups, and then you have to swing your right leg over on the saddle, right? So the time it takes anyways, to do that, the foot in there and then the second leg over, right? During that time, so it's just we're talking about time. It's not about a horse or anything. Just about the time it takes one to do that. Anyone in that time, those practitioners who have completed the Longchen Nyingtik Ngondro, they are able to visualize the 725 deities of in the Nyingma. There are there's this class of deities called 8 Herukas or 8 logos, and in total in these 8 categories there is 725 different deities. So in the time it takes one to mount a horse, basically they can see and visualize all the details of those deities and the implements and the color and the ornaments and all of it. So it is said, and that's because their ability comes from having a really firm practice of the preliminaries. So that's why it's considered to be so important, because in the beginning it establishes the foundation, and then in the middle it is really that foundation that actually helps one to perfect one's experience and one's realization to the final end. And so that's why everyone really considers the preliminaries as very important. And all of these masters actually none of these masters say that the deity yoga, the generation stage is important, but they all say that the preliminaries are really important.
다 조바 쳔보 당한테 춘네 사포스 혈라든데 라마트서 담보네 훈로 요에 송거 요르다 훈로 요에스 다 수소 훈로 세나 데네 추대 휘야 초초 나오지 그 수소라 제 왕다 딩 제 대소 휘야 딩수 요 대반 나오지 요르 은네다네 당 ngale ya thamjela tel las chuba yu barwa teni tel tube ka sinaba sa shugo yori tel tube ka chuba ya bo chanu do ten ngondro de so ya bo mi teni de so je ya bo ma ya tsu chuba de teni de zam je dang nga so gompa me ga go ni ne lavreda nga tambo ta gompa na ya ndu ta pe chungchong do hira je so ya ndu de nga ngun de ta trawa grom da bo ji trawa sar de je ba jin do 코란 쪽 때 야드야 문로 야드야 된된 자화 김바 카헤글 라운도 코 근문로 빼야 보 야송 코 추바야 보 착 마음벌 착그리스 코 문로 히라 차 야본 치마송 야문나 코 이게야 보소 마송 코 야보 착 말스 코즈 드라드 랍드 심난 칼 마음벌 로니선 자 카헤테노 응네 용은도 삼상도 로니선 지니 데 문로 야보 용킨데 지 추바노 야로 송안도 제 Ngondro yabo ya matawa tso te tes che tana no chezo glo yang koran so lapal che dimbo no che yongwan ro te se yong yo re ta nge choran so semhyong ro ja ke yo ma re te chik chin choran so te teng si bare ndo so lang ngondro kar chim bo ri ya si na so lang ngondro kar chim bo ri ma ya sam si baro a ta choran ne le ta ka wa zong bo che ha chang ke tana che jiwa nga ma tana chopsa de jang chim bo jin che 인 드나 간자 mambo 요르다 산제그 드바 산조순 드바 드라 mambo 요르 때는 믹사 거의 나츠 믹사 개지고만 레줌데 톤 믹사 차도 요 마도 주랑 상하 냠린 지고는 흥동은 흥 록송 요르다 가르진 로고 요르시디 문로 시바 나한테나 님종 세바데 요레 문로라 투몽세 문로 세데 니마도 속에 투몽세 문로 송고 요레 데니 따라 ngacho다 ngachose나 데 gelot sondawaje ino zo tendaro tumong mai pason ngoro iwaseger 강다양 님종 시 고요레스 추람 마자 이나리 세모와 이나리 추드발라 님종 고요레 님종면 추양다 영토게 말에 님종 세바 가와리 체니마 돔동 제야바지리 님종 세드 코아 동하인 바하 고네 탄두 글로지 담분 코와 동하인 바하고 데네 탄두 글로지 거 딜로 데니 누바 쳔보요레 로 파드는 코 뇽총다워지 책 놓아데 누바 가르스는 땅에 초사긴 드바장기 된다 그sam노데 데니 용거요레 데엔도 상하냐니 지발라요 대송거요레 다 저런상 대하지 문로 마야 상하 취요나 양데 초라리 야다 데닝가 말에 데 소수히라고 제거 이나 드랭 반주 여보 도로티니 제네 여보요레 대와에 나게 라고에 드르제 뉴동은 지 야바나 인스 저런 상하냐니 진키나 드르제 뉴동은 지나 양문나 코뇽니 양로그리 양마마 동거 때마 판도사 촌도사게 요 말이스 데엔도 저런 상하냐니 진키나 양문나 야 타와 산제지 곰팡사라 양로그리 양문나 상하가 담사이도 소 야보 마소는 많이 와는로도 그랬으 냐와 당인 손마 문이 손요리 주도 손나 다때 손요디 다 된다지 손요디 다 대라야 도말 문로 갈치도 요리 바르도 책 상하가 왕다 테다 당와 마보 휴네 데니 데솔은 냠차 송송아이나 Seg Digba Shazila, Tonsha, La Suncha Songa La Sopa, the Sotamji, Yapu Wusang. Churan Nang Digba Shaba, Sama Digba Shaba to Sola, Dorji Samba Gom de Lanamiba, the Shaba Tamji, Jabo in Sonre. Then do Mudon de Yorwa. Then the Digba la Yunti Mi Jang, Yakpen Dano, the Digba Yuntiri song. Then the Koshaju Yuda. Ne Digban Sai, de la Shaju Yuda, Shazi Chuchin da. They can't have Hiagon magic love that Tenita Susonyali Mayenta, Susola. Then Nanyavan Rogi, Setani Jayabando, Charogurva, then the Garchimboy but the Susu Semi Zogo Yoritambo. Ratu Goyoris.
So, for example, I myself, I'm a sentient being of the degenerate age, the 5 degenerations, and I have encountered many spiritual teachers. For example, Dzogchen masters who give very profound teachings, and no matter who you encounter, like there's a tradition of the first question any of these lamas asks you actually, back in Tibet, is, do you have the Ngondro or not? Because only if you have it, only if you have completed it, actually, traditionally, only then will you receive any teaching or empowerment. Otherwise, they wouldn't feel the confidence that you should receive the empowerment. And also, it is actually said that the completion of the preliminary practices actually really makes a big difference. It has a very direct connection to our receiving of blessings, and also more importantly, how we actually going to turn out as a practitioner in the future. That actually really is determined by whether or not we have done the preliminaries. It is actually said that if someone who has done the preliminaries, they say in Tibet that they will be a good practitioner, that they will be good in the future. And somebody who hasn't done the preliminaries, they say that one will not be a good practitioner. Especially in our monastery, in Gar monastery, I remember when I was a young monk there was this group of new monks, of young monks, and that group was doing the Ngondro. And I remember the older monks saying that this one will be good in the future, or that one will not be so good, because they were looking at how the monks were performing, and when they saw that, this one is doing really well, and he will be a really great practitioner in the future. Or that one, he didn't do so well with the prostrations or the Vajrasattva accumulations. He won't turn out good in the future. And actually, then when you look into the future, like 2-3 years later or so, you can really see that's actually kind of true what they said. You can really see that those monks who did really well in the preliminaries, they actually turn out really good monks also years later. And then those who didn't really make this effort, they also didn't do so well later on. So there is really something to that, actually. But then also, of course, you shouldn't feel discouraged in a way. And also you shouldn't think that, because some people think that it's just like a sutra practice. That basically the preliminaries are just considered important in the lower sutra paths, but not so important in the tantric path. And of course, I mean, there might be some great beings who have a certain very special karmic condition where they have already practiced extensively in previous lives, and they have accumulated a lot of merit and purified obscurations and so on. And actually, there are emanations of a Buddha or of a Bodhisattva. There are some really very special beings, and perhaps these may be an exception, but generally, we can say that you need to have the preliminaries, especially as a Vajrayana practitioner. You need to have the preliminaries. Because why? The reason why it's so important is because the essence of the preliminaries is the mind of renunciation. And now we have said in the Nyingma, for example, they speak about the common outer preliminaries. Also in the Gelugpa, they speak about the common and the uncommon. But anyways, in whichever lineage you practice, renunciation is what they all emphasize in the context of preliminary practices. And it doesn't matter whether one is a monk or a lay person, everybody needs to have renunciation, because without any renunciation, it will be difficult to practice the Dharma genuinely. So what is renunciation? In brief, it's just one, it can be summarized into just one sentence, and that is, maybe two. So basically you understand that samsara is suffering, and once you understand that samsara is suffering, you want to become free from suffering. That's renunciation. And this mind is very powerful. Maybe it may seem to be a very kind of like a kind of a humble thought, but it's actually a very powerful thought, because the power it has is that once you have renunciation, once you understand that samsara is suffering and you want to become free, then you will think, and I must practice to accumulate merit and purify my obscurations and practice the Vajrayana teachings. So also you shouldn't think that, no, because having said that, you should first have the preliminaries and then you engage in a Vajrayana practice. So also don't think that all the Vajrayana empowerments that you have received so far are sort of wasted because you don't have the preliminaries. So this is not the case at all. It's also not wasted, but that the reason for saying that is to understand the significance actually of the Vajrayana, because the significance is really related to this initial thought of renunciation that really determines everything, and especially in the Vajrayana, because it is said that the Vajrayana path is like a snake being stuck in a bamboo reed. So it has only two ways to go. It cannot go anywhere. It can only either go up or it can go down. So similarly, as a practitioner of the Vajrayana, we either go up to complete liberation, or if we do not keep our samayam, then in the tantras it is taught that one may also go down to the three lower realms like hell. So therefore, in the beginning, it's really important to practice the preliminaries also for that reason, because it's so significant in the Vajrayana. And it really becomes the foundation of all the different empowerments and teachings of the Vajrayana that we receive later on. Now from we need to purify our obscurations along the path. And so there are different ways of purifying the obscurations. And so it is said from an external perspective, the way we purify our transgressions or breaches of samaya and so on is, for example, by reciting the supplication to the 35 Buddhas, which is the confession of downfall sadhana. Or from the inner or secret perspective, we practice Vajrasattva, which is said to be the king of all confessions, the most powerful way to purify our negativities. And it is said that while negativities have no good qualities, if they had a good quality, then it would be their potential to be purified through confession. So it is through recognizing I did this wrong, and I can purify this if I give it up, if I lay it aside. Basically, it should be very clear to us, because it's really up to us. Whether we go up or down depends on our own mind, our own practice. So basically, knowing all of that and not really wanting to purify one's negativities is the same as saying, I will go to hell, and I accept that. So then, you have made your choice and you go there. But basically, it really depends on the choices that you make.
Ngune chingranzu yana yabor ta chapchang ya ton ang dambore temena suso ke ngondro tam bamya labren banga labgre kantam banga yore yotang dem bamya bene yondo ko yore Tranka de indu ta de ngaranzo Ngondro tumong se ngodo na tamjer ibar kawa se yore ta tengune rede tara ngaranzo lo chunga tamje na lakbardo yogo yoris kansi na lo gemba cha de teni pumola na cha yore ta dela soba kanga mambo te cha jin sigun situko yomarda suso de jindu yona ya jituko yomare de inza lo chungchong yin bujum sin le ten lakbardo ta Ngondro cha la soba yago de gar chimbo hibere ta lo des chimbo yin ya o nga lo chimbo yin nga lo Ngondro yoya ke ta chakjin modo sin de ya yo mare chakjin yore 저랑 카게요 말이 찌게요 말이 대짐센에 되는 다 얘기하소 칼 다찌를 게로야 게요 말이 강게지 되는 때 산트 라파르트 주도야 되는 얘기하소 문에다네 얘기가 피용 찍때 삼점 맞춰버리다 되는 다 멘라요 다 라마 남절 흉문에 그다 타토 상제고는 라마 남절 냠니 ngotru yomare gandar sangje hibade sozo ge zabalamate ransam de yermi de ngotru yomare tate lam nam yorse mixa koran lam yan del jondar wi ne nyamni chin rosa yore nge lai ba tahi de karesina tenda pen naro pinchi na nalinda ne jango so kepa sun de shalo no za cho yen ge cho jik ge ton je 답배 미시바게 개박게라 짐버리다 페인트다 데 데니 텔로파 세츠드니 데니 오코 나로 그 까친 주니 까총니 시자비 데저서 저야 요르다 데라 난다 미바 당도 랑네 까와 주트바 다 드라베네 데니 다 르브랑고 추네 드라제르다 데엔도 라만난저시 당 차마 되는 데도 요르 데니 담보 저 남발에 안주디 토마르 남발은 유부고 잠로리 되는 잠로 요래 잠로 고 세지지 데벤다오테 대바리 대초로 요거리 다 데인데 데니다 초사고 요래 간스나 예단 학불하 담지 무럽 설용와라 소소 초사고 요래 데민라리 초사 사는 지 문안 덱사지 요거와 소소고 누르마소나 제 링공 침보지 여보지 차고나 담점 블루름 보체데 담보니 가르침 뭐 임발라 부타르동 델라치 rumboji nuna yizogona ta dorji simbo gomde de chadayor tenza ngaranzo chamala ta tomar ta chakjinji gare gorsu chu chamdo domba Ngondro go yore ten yinda chu takta tenana ngorombo nga nyamni ji chogo yore chu ga hena wang top go yore dorji simba perna dorji simba ta we na 야면 jordewa yor tso nyamni chibala chu wang top go yore 다 그장 요 대반데 다른 거로 입야wen데 왕 마탄 나춘 냠니 지 초초 요래 되니다 다라데 가르시 다 되는 다른 냠니 지당 럼바 망보 요래 베나 조랑 글라마 가양 로안준 데니 왕 탱직 톱스와이나 되니다 디게 냠니 나나야 왕일린스네 요래 왕일린 띵진 왕걸라서 비진데 왕일린 받아서 수소랑 글린 초고 요래라 터와 톱고 요래 된 노주는 송 야바레면서 근데 대하자 한반도 카케 바베 시에그 요마로 된자 데 칸켄켄켄켄도 원은 시에그 미스다 간다르테 가이스나 맞어 주되는 송 요래스 저 왕가양 로마지 담보 톱고 요래스 다때 바전 총 마상죠 주는 가르송 요르스나 알레테 야 형아 네다 저 가능 현도죠 주는 송으래 왕 주는 송으라 왕거 도주 탐지는 송으래 제하라 도주 제연더라 왕는 몸도 지게 되는 거라고 주는 사람라 수타가 라비긴 뭐 말한다
So it's really important that you complete the Ngondro And me insisting here, you shouldn't misunderstand that I'm not saying that with a kind of a bad intention towards you, but it's really very important to complete the preliminaries. And if you can complete them all, then that's the best. But you can also kind of break it up because it has different sections. There's 400,000 or 500,000. Basically, the 500,000 I included in the section of 400,000s. So you go in stages by training, learning about the outer. You start with the outer common preliminaries, where you reflect upon the difficulty of finding a precious human body, and then you do prostrations, which is the first of the preliminaries, the 400,000s. And so the prostrations, and actually the preliminaries in general, because there's a lot of prostration, is something that if you're still young, it's definitely something you shouldn't put off for later, but you should do it while you're still young, because later your knees will start hurting and you will have many different reasons for not doing the prostrations. Even if you want to do it, then you might not be able to do it physically. So now when you're young and you're physically able, it's actually very important. That's really the time to complete the preliminaries. But on the other hand, if you're a little bit older already, then you also shouldn't think that, no, okay, I'm too old, I can't do the preliminaries. That's also not true. Because maybe parts of your body are aging, but your mouth and your tongue is not aging, so you can still use it. And for example, use your tongue to accumulate a 100-syllable mantra of Vajrasattva. And that alone actually is an incredible benefit. And then you can also practice the mandala and the guru yoga and so on. And especially in the guru yoga, we are really introduced to, actually that's where we really are introduced to the ultimate state of enlightenment, because we recognize that the guru's mind, the root guru's mind, and your own mind are the Buddha. They are actually one, and they are the Buddha. So this is what we can actually accomplish by only practicing the Ngondro, the preliminaries. For example, the great Pandita, the scholar Naropa, before he met his teacher Antilopa, he was one of the greatest scholars of his time. He was the gatekeeper of the northern gate at the Nalanda monastic university, a renowned great scholar. But when he heard about Tilopa, when he trained under Tilopa, even though he was already so great, he still had to endure a lot of hardships. So he endured 12 major and 12 minor hardships, so 24 hardships. And so these hardships, he actually voluntarily endured these hardships. No one actually made him endure those hardships, but he recognized the importance and his guru that he wanted to follow. And so actually everything is really included in the guru yoga practice, for example. So in any case, when we start with the preliminaries, the very beginning is to take refuge, which is like the entrance gate to the Buddhist practice. And the key that opens that gate is faith. And then we need to also accumulate merit. And in order to gain the siddhis or the accomplishments of the Yidam deity, we need to accumulate merit through offering them mandala. So, for example, even though we have a precious human body to begin with, and that's already very precious, because this human body is the vessel or like the support, like the working basis based on which we can gain all of these accomplishments. But then it is through the preliminaries that we, specifically the Vajrasattva practice in the preliminaries, through these practices we kind of refine this vessel. We make it a better vessel, a better suited vessel for the practice. And so, again, the first thing that needs to be done when we engage in Dharma practice is to take the refuge vow. And then we complete the 400,000 preliminary practices, and then we receive the Vajrayana empowerments and teachings. And so actually, normally, in the preliminaries, it's not necessary to receive any empowerments, because for the Vajrasattva practice, only if you would practice the Vajrasattva with a consort, the Yab-yum aspect, only then would you need an empowerment. But in the Ngondro, we practice the single Vajrasattva, and it's not necessary to have an empowerment to do this Vajrasattva practice. So that's anyone can do this practice without an empowerment in the context of the preliminary practices. And so, for example, what one can also do, one can also take self-empowerment, for example, the Samadhi empowerment that includes the 4 levels of empowerment. But in any case, it is taught in the tantras that in order to engage in a deity practice, one must receive an empowerment in general.
Perna churanga cha kangjing sin na pion samje ma cha pa yore ta cha bomjing sin na ka che yore te sauno tara cha chang kangje le pion ka che yore sanje ko sum ba de sanje ko kunga bola phaka ni gelong je ke chuti je yore tin na ringser je yore tel gelong de ke cha phuen yore cha phu de teni kunga bo ke sanje le hyuna ti cha de le pion ka che yore se de 티 코랑게 주보게 마 갑데사게 사차 따테 마두틴 트프차 마보여라 따두틴 사람바히 마 워ren워라 티 더더 냠바게 코랑 콜로주비자보게 지왈린토그리 소네 산제게 차강젤 피용 데이터베지 요레 데엔데 테니 나장조게 참레 피용 딩고 요레 참레 양데리 가르치 모제 당가 저거 취 인바 냠네 왜 되는 데도 가래 냠네 왜나 상전로도 삼상로 요르데 다 취 냠네 지디 파체 만보 요르다 참레 체 파체 요레 참레 낭그 파체 요레 낭그 파체 수수 삼노라 당가 제 곰로 자 냠네 제 텐로 코르다 당가 낭바 진이 조사 말이시 당가 낭바 취데 요고 사레 삼상 데로 지야 요레 저 낭바 같이 주는 뭐 제 냠네 제데 바이나 ताते सोलो नंग परचेरे तातेला बो दुंबातांग परचे सेवा थमजेला ता तिंगुरोते न्यामने त लन मे पाछा दयो रे जुमसे करे रे लेलु किनिबो मता पासो ता ngरन चोगला तंबो को ता nga cha de lo ji ma chi gi मुंडो ते लो जी मा चे यागी सम तने yang lo ji ma sha ti lo ji ma यागी या निमा चे लंगा छाम ले दे तने यागी सबसा रो यो रे तेसो लेलो सेरे ते मता पटिने तेनी लमसंग यागो योरे दा कछे तुत जा तमने जा तों तों ता छा चिपो माइना यिंदा तिनने मुरो कायं रोवा चे पेन तालो ndabla चोरांग मुरो कायं रोवा आं तांबो ते तालो मुरो छापसां या ते माथना तालो चोरांग मुरो चे या कोका याबो दो ताता चोरांग फा योंगो चोर योंगो मदो रोसों तोंगो मदो पे कोका सुनाम चे या मुदो जोर दे बका विंदु तनी ता मुंडो दुस काप्स ट्रवा दुस ट्रेन लिमा थमना nga klima thana tini rumbo jabjin ka chin rumbo chi yo te ma yo choran sosola zabla ma so pe kang ma ya po chanya yo re dusul trin nan de yo re te ta darang nge roba no chi di chin tel tine yo thap ta gul ne ta ne tini lelo si te tara tereng meng lo jima me te tara tin rewa chi la nga lo som chosom la dego singa nyama chi lo chang la dego lo som dego chuna lo som chang de chachin tangbo de sagi kani kan cheba yo mar de yago hondo yago yore de ne te chur ta ta hondo ya wa na te cho lo pa cha ja cha jar gri de lo som so la de na ya te ni ka le ma do ra karsi ji chu tara lo ni she na hondo ya na chu lo ja cha jar gla la de ne lo som sa ya na aram sa be gomja de cho yorwa tenda yin za ne dan ka chim bo cha de yore
so it is said that even just to do a single prostration is of so much benefit, so then there's no need to mention, of course, the benefit comes from doing 100,000 prostrations. For example, one time the Buddha actually spoke about that, about the benefits of prostration. So one time the Buddha was with his attendant Ananda, and Ananda saw this monk, this bhikshu, prostrating to a stupa that had some relics in there. And so then Ananda asked the Buddha, how much benefit is there in doing prostration? And then the Buddha said, it's like every time he goes down, if you would count all the dust particles covered by his body when he's doing the prostration, that many times he will be born as a wheel-turning king in the future, just from one prostration. So sometimes when you do prostrations, therefore it's good to think about the benefits, such as these, of doing the prostration, and also think about attaining enlightenment. Because sometimes people might think that, it doesn't really matter what you practice. You can just practice any dharma, and anything can lead to enlightenment. So you can just basically people think that there's no need to do the preliminaries. They can just practice any dharma and attain enlightenment. But the problem is that, of course, on a way that's true. But the problem is that on our path we encounter a lot of obstacles. So that's the thing. A lot of outer obstacles and a lot of inner obstacles. For example, an inner obstacle would be that maybe you practiced the Dharma, maybe you've meditated for many years already, and something happens within yourself, and all of a sudden you feel that I don't want to practice anymore. I don't want to meditate anymore. I don't want to practice Buddhism. So that's not impossible to happen. That's an inner obstacle. And so therefore, that's, for example, one reason why we have a foundation of the preliminaries. Because the preliminaries really, they kind of become a foundation so we can move up on our path, like kind of a stepping stone that help us to go up and clear away all kinds of obstacles that we may encounter on the path. So there's no greater foundation than the preliminaries. And so also, now for doing the preliminaries, as we said before, it's good to do it when you're still young. And so that means we shouldn't be lazy. When you feel lazy, then you should remember impermanence. Now, often we procrastinate and we say that maybe I will do it next year. Maybe I do the prostrations next year, or maybe I do the Ngondro next year. And then comes the next year, and then there's another reason, and then you say maybe next year. Or maybe you say one day I will do retreat. And so we put our activities off like that with laziness. So it's important to remember impermanence and to practice it while you still can, which is immediately. Because we don't know about the future. And even if you, for example, don't do the whole preliminaries, for example, if you, ideally, of course, you complete the whole preliminaries, but you can just, for example, focus on the prostrations, like do a section of the preliminaries. So you can basically do it in whichever way, but it's good to not procrastinate it, because now you have an opportunity to actually do it. Now you have all the conditions that are necessary to do the preliminary, so you should really seize this opportunity. And on your path of doing the preliminary, so you try to complete it within the year, and if you can't, you just pick one of the sections that you accumulate and so on. And along your path, along the way, if you have questions, then answer them. And if there's anything that I'm not able to answer, you can also ask, for example, Garchen Rinpoche, or whoever is your own root guru. You can ask any of your own root gurus, that's fine. And basically my support for you should be like the condition, helping you really to try to complete the preliminaries, and not to put it off with a procrastinating mind of laziness, thinking that maybe next year, maybe later. maybe some people often say that one day I will do the 3-year retreat. And so then when the time comes, however, when the time comes for the 3-year retreat, then you should have already completed the preliminaries. So when that opportunity opens up and then you don't have the preliminaries, then you also can't really do the 3-year retreat. And also the preliminaries is something you should really do when you're a little bit younger. And this 3-year retreat, you can do it any time later. So for example, if you're like 20 years old now, you could do the preliminaries now, and then you could do the 3-year retreat when you're 89 in the future. And then when you're really old, you can just go into retreat and just relax in meditation.
Tang nyamli nang kin tamje le hyogo yo barwa ti tikapsu nga ke ma hyuba kapsu jitang te jini hyochondo de yang nga ke ko ma otana chungwa ina choran so ke ti imer na jwa te jini teni ina sukro ba bro chigere te kebjer jiro teni sa sipo tana semra kayang mi pa ke ne kamda wo jire choran so tata teni tang rob za ma dordu chena Tamjir ni par kawas tumong se ngondo nani. Tamjir shiba de ni kapo yimba te chudrupa la kokap che yubukap yinzang ni kapo se gyaware. Teni tamjir de ni kawa te ni rikita nga sok tara ra ni tsari tela. Tela mulan roke jago mudo ni hyo sene. Mulan dropso nga sok. Ta te ina ya matapare. Ta matapa yimba te ngoma namchu yapo yu na rantu go yore. Ngarang su pu kapsa ta tara gange chando do wa te mata pare ti ma che hian ro wa to so mata ba ko jun bo de ge yo mare lak par tu chu dba la chu db kap da ma db kap ni db kap ji ko kap de ha cha nyong wa re chu db kap ji ko kap de l njur do ma nga yo re te in za mata pare es ta mata ba yin na te ni ta te ran ro pu thoni ta tamjer de don yu ba chi go do se du ta legend se ti khan yong go yore chorang ke le ge wa sa na de de wa min do chorang lu zar jang na del pa bu ke zu bo de thang cha do ta chan se ya de lu zar nang chik cha do yor wa yoga cha do yor ga da den dong ha sung ro ge yoga te yu tumong ta den dong ha sung ro ge te cha do yore yoga na ye cha do yore teni ta ti od ta ko wa se wan de lang ga so chi Nika ke ko dewa chilo shine chane ta tere pe na nganda wo ina tel gapo yore te sage yore nge mambo de bebe ase de kando easy noodle yo easy noodle am ta nga mat chama ke te maza la nga sa yore ta nga te si nga te chapa yore wa te kale na sa zon ro se chame la do te na yirin ko as ji te la chi so gasa de chi chunjong de ji tama Tene soso cholan ro za ninjong se yo godum de cha de yores de la tumong se ngondro ya se yore tumong ngondro ya se yore ti ti o de tang so chamro se ta tara chapjing gar chirom bo chi ngarang chon ro ina ta ngune ka din sanji kun le la ba ngarang chu chama la chap de domba nang ke yore wa de mai ba te soso la gebshi ni yore de so chamro nomba nang cha choran chama chamro domba yore wa si pa ke cham do ba phiung chi pu te sam ta wa na ha le pa re ngene ra ne ta ti o de ta de ge ju nu do wa si cho tam chorang ke zu po tam jer ni pa ka wa hi ba de pe na si na wo chi ser na wo chi rum po chi cha la ji yin yang te chi zo go yo ra ta pi ju yo jo chi zo go mi se do do pa na bol ndo ya ya ke pi ju me ha ko chi zo go design ro ji de zo de cham ro de ke zo yong go yo ra ha ko so ha ta cham ro de zo de ta Tene digdab jangwa la, stati kala chik chana anda wata chakwa anda wata chara wana matra ya, te hong ya, ta dorji samba laaz jiba mees. Ta ti kala ya meto traya, tene hinglo traya, tene tela sabo ki chay, peta karang, ta lana mipi yung ting tuso ya traya te, ta tso saba ke, tene mendra chada yores. Pen ta zungni rawa chana, pen tsuna, ta sanje ki yung ting nga tsu zupo tela ya ming, zupo la ya mingo yo na zupo sen tamjor ku lundi kala sanje ku yungti so ya mingo na ta chosa go do sidite la mendra cha do yore Teni ngone ngarang zo sengu ngor tong yi jin par margin to hakko go ai na lama ta tu yi jig de se lam nam jor de cha de yu za ta ti ya de la tini tumi nang ngondro tumi ge ngondro se ge yore la nang ngondro se ge yore ta nga zo ge nyam ni te chi ya res.
So now today I'm not going into great detail. I'm just giving you an outline, an introduction to the preliminaries. So later, if you really follow the class and do the preliminaries, and we go into more detail. For those who really are actually then doing the practice. And so I try to convey that as well as I can. And if there are a few things that are unclear, maybe because my language skills are not enough, then you can also send an email, and then Ina will answer you. And so you can complete the preliminary practices without any worries in your mind. So in brief, so to summarize, so we start with what is called the outer or the common preliminary practices, which is the difficulty of finding a precious human body. And so here basically the essence of that is that we understand that now we have a unique opportunity to practice the Dharma because we have a human body, we have found it. So we already have it, and we actually only get it if we make a lot of prayer. So we have already made these prayers, now we have it. And however, even though we have such a precious human body, it also is impermanent. And anyone who has a certain level of intelligence would understand how things go. We age. So one moment you're a little child, and then you're already grown up and you're aging and you're growing old, and then you die. And no one will actually stay for really long. And so therefore, now is the opportunity to practice the Dharma. And actually, there are not, even though we have a precious human body, we actually don't have a lot of opportunities. There's only a few real opportunities to practice. And even if we have the opportunity, these opportunities can also change because things are impermanent. And so that's impermanence and the difficulty of finding a precious human body. And that's also related to karma, which is the third point. And so here we will then learn that through virtuous actions we experience happiness, and non-virtuous actions we experience suffering. So here we will train the mind in engaging in virtuous actions. For example, physical virtuous actions include doing prostrations, which is actually also related to yoga and practice, which in a way is like the union of the sutras and the tantras. But in any way, so we are turning our attachment, we're turning away from the attachment to the temporary pleasures of the samsaric life. For example, I have my own attachments. For example, I really like the ramen noodles, and I know they're not healthy, and people always tell me don't eat it, it's not good for you, and I can't stop eating them because they're so tasty. And people say, but you will get really sick in the future, and I'm still eating it. So basically, I'm kind of spoiling my health. So this is what we do. Now, that's why we need the renunciation and turning away from all these attachments, because we don't want to spoil the opportunity. So, anyways, these are what we call the outer or common preliminaries. And now we are with His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche, and as our root guru, his kindness actually exceeds the kindness of even the Buddha. And most of us have perhaps received the refuge vow from him, or maybe any other guru, but we probably all have received the refuge vow. And if you just think about the benefits of that, actually, they are quite incredible. So through that, actually, we are first becoming like a suitable vessel for receiving the Dharma teachings. For example, it's like you want to have a vessel, like a bowl, that is made out of gold or some precious jewel. And so if you just have this lump of gold, that doesn't help you when you need a bowl, even though it's gold. So you kind of have to refine it and then kind of polish it and so on. So it becomes useful. So that piece of gold becomes actually useful. And so that's the purpose of the refuge. And then also through the Vajrasattva, we are removing all the stains from that vessel. We are cleansing all the obscurations and the negativities in our minds. And then through the mandala offering, we offer the mandala in order to accumulate merit, so in order to really mature into the enlightened qualities of a Buddha, just like a flower, a seed is ripening into a flower, which ripens into a fruit. But just like that, we need to mature, and we do that through accumulating merit. And the best method to do that is the mandala offering. And then finally, the ultimate goal is, of course, to realize the nature of the mind. That is our true nature, the empty, primordial awareness. And to realize our true nature, we practice the Guru Yoga. So these those four are the four inner or the uncommon preliminary practices.
All right, then Pacher the inside any Igya can reheat Huna Samson Tang also Sama Kate Igya the Sungur Tatarango Yonki in a mainare Igya the topper song to your didn't take a Delan rehe Norduce Huna Samson. Then I'm doing around so get you do the tick and Nandun Hakona take a Pinto Chembo Yonkore. Then Teni yinda ta te ke nyamni chitang te shepcha tingune ti ngondro bumji bonga yongkin to so nyamdala. Teni hya cha de yorwa.
So that is the introduction, but I also thought of explaining the meaning of the 100-syllable Vajrasattva mantra a bit today, because it's important whether or not you receive whether or not you do the preliminaries. So these introductory teachings was kind of a common, a general teachings for anyone, whether or not you actually intend to practice the preliminaries. And if you really want to practice them, then we will talk more about the details in each of the classes when we then go through those 400,000 or 500,000 different accumulations that we have to do. But just in general, I thought of explaining a bit the meaning of the 100-syllable mantra, because generally it's good to understand the meaning of whatever dharma we are practicing. And so I will do that, and then the rest I will share throughout the classes later on.
Then the Bazar Sato Samaya si. That take up so Shibandela Tunda Je Yore. Tunda Je Tinangeta then Chot and Trahibala Konandaki Yore Tata. Tangaso Jawakang, Drone Tomar Che Trahibatang, Tandache Yonatini, Jawatelin Rabion Pink Yorova, Deke Chani Sunkuyore. Then in Bazar Shibande Jetang Tarate, Tam Niji Chimbo Chan Sunkuyore. Then in Bazar Shibande Puke Nana Dojes, Jetang Dos, Jes, take the Nico Gualon de Puke and a pair, thanks about your Kojore. The carrier said, Do Mambo Yoratang around Zabalin de Gala. Do Tamchen and Jes, the Jawanda Yoris. Sorry, the Dorje Panaris. That tinning the time Yotarandala. Courage tinning time Gursudu. Then it had a Dorje Shibandala. Then Gange and Yomataba, Jamataba. Then a Dorje Palam Lavensdongazok. Then it take caress in the new Mombatang. Dela Soba Gangaran took a single hig in Niji Chimbote. Then is so Gange and Yomaneba go run into you deba. Riz. That is W. Dinkindela, then Dorje Sambaki, Ning Chahi about Dorje Shibat. The Sato Hibande, Titangansu, Semba Hibate Chadu. Semba Sedu, Hirap Chala Tayong, so hirab se jote je namjun je ngarang so hirab parwa te mayin ba deni sem korang riktong ngo tara riktong ke yishi de la ta yong yor ta dige ranzok la ya khar dewa te la dorje sambas deni samayas de ngachu katok yorndu damchek labre damchek hiba karesna mandawasi karela mandasi du deni dewo ke manupalaya shiba telen dewa yor kahena na anupalaya se yore te dra drop nduko chapsang drop ma chart lo tangji yore anupalaya se manu shiba de kandar manure da manupalaya se du dorji samba ke korang tambo ngombar zo sangji da de karesere 타에 비신진 담지 동하게 잠솔레 드라기 세나 담색 대리 공거 담색 콩라 소아답 좀 지순 용킹 그 단타에 비신진 간란도 있는 양 되니 코와 동하게 잠솔 드라기 세디 다 텔랑아랑 조금 보고요 초랑 그 단다 랍송아스 다 나초티 지수 중로 지전 보야 돈다 대자도 요래 담보
So the mantra begins with and has 8 meanings, but 2 of them are enough for us to understand. And so that is, one meaning is, it means supreme, and also it means auspicious. And especially auspicious because it is kind of sets the auspicious conditions for accomplishing anything perfectly. So it's auspiciousness. And then so then is Vajrasattva or Benza Sattva. So Benza is the Vajra, and that is a symbol for great compassion, the method. And the word in Tibetan for Vajra is Doje, and Do and Je. And Do, actually just the word Doje means something, it has a very profound meaning in the Tibetan language. Do means basically rock or stone, and there's many different stones in the world. And Je, so Dorje, Je means like the most exalted. So the most exalted, the highest, or like the king of all rocks, which in a worldly sense often is the diamond. So that's why the Vajra often is called a diamond. And a quality of the Vajra is also that it is indestructible, and you cannot even cut it in any way, and that also is a diamond-like quality, and that is a sign. It is a representation of one's true nature, the true nature of the mind. That the true nature of the mind cannot be affected or harmed in any way by any affliction and so on. So that's why it's given the name Vajra, so that the Vajra is indestructible, invincible nature of the mind. And so that's the Vajra. And then Sattva, so Vajra Sattva. Sattva is like literally translated like a being, like as a noun being, a person, a being. And here meaning that it actually refers to a wisdom mind or intelligence, but not the ordinary kind of intelligence, but it's the primordial wisdom of the empty intrinsic awareness. So one's true nature, this wisdom, the primordial wisdom. The primordial wisdom manifesting in physical form is Vajrasattva. So that's the reason why it's given that name. So Vajrasattva, then Samaya, and Samaya, so is this Samaya, the vow, if we translate the term directly. But the etymological meaning of Samaya actually is to not transgress, or not go beyond, not kind of trespass. And then, so Vajrasattva Samaya, and some people first say Anu Palaya, but here it is actually Manu Palaya. So anyways, next is Manu Palaya. And so that is the kind of a reminder of the Buddha's commitment. So what's the Buddha's commitment? So the Samaya, So Vajrasattva Samaya. So Vajrasattva had a commitment. And his commitment was to liberate all sentient beings, bring them to enlightenment. And so he had the vast intention, thinking that whoever supplicates me, I will come and liberate them from the ocean of samsaric suffering. So that's the Samaya, that's Vajrasattva Samaya. So when we say Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya, then this Manupalaya is kind of like a reminder, saying that, remember, you made this promise to come to protect us. That's your Samaya. So now please come to look after us.
Tatio the Bajar Sato, Tino Pass, Tina Bajar Sato, Yanjak do the Dorji Sambas, Yanjan Nintim in Bugurida, Korangzini. Tino Pass, but Churang, Churang, the Chas is shows, Euros, you, my dead seat. Churang, you. You. Then the draw me baba said, Tichas, Dorjesamba chu, Eurogis, Kawa Eurogi said, then the draw me baba. The draw me baba said, me sitting nga ke takandar, ngala, Churang ear meets in ma durogi sita. Churang Dambon ke lang simba. Lang simbana yi ngala ear meets in Euro G, sita bawa sijute Pachazo Nasokuchi, Pa Jidang do Laya Jua, like you do it, something like that. Then I hear what the Euro G, sir. Good say.
So now we have Pensasato Samaya, Manupalaya, and then again Pensasato Denoba. So then we say again Vajrasattva Denoba. So then we say his name again. So just for the sake of emphasis. And then Denoba Denoba basically means you. So basically you, Vajrasattva. That's what Vajrasattva Denoba Dishta Didomebava. So Dishta then means you, Vajrasattva, please stay here. And then where should he stay? That's Didomebava. So Didome, so me means me, and then the rest means stay, remain inseparable from me, indivisible from me, because that was your initial commitment. So now come and stay indivisible from me. And then in the end, so Pensasato Samadishta Didome Bawa, then the Bawa in the end basically is like an imperative, so it means like do it.
Then Sutu Kayo me Bawa, Sidu Kayo, Sutu Kayo Shibate, Tsemzi, Tsem, Titonri. That take correct Sango is Tangala, Tarate, Chutamjig, Nelo Dewachimbuishi, the Tsemparchis, that kinds in the Dorjisamba Koran Chutamjig, Nelo Dewachimbra, Yinchada Yoruba. Take tanga tsemgo yoris. That dead zen ngagjula donga, semla donga migos, ngagjula lula natsa migos. Out in it, parchi migos, the so me into mead carisana, dorji sambarang la shion the tamiundi, then it chona no malubana yinket, then it got dewachim be he jeong yoroa, then it tendachiro jes on Nando Teres.
And then Sutukayo Mepawa is so Sutukayo is so to satisfy, right? Yeah. So you stay here indivisible from me and like be satisfied with that. Basically. So and why? Because he we have now, through being inseparable with you, I also will realize the true nature of phenomena. And the true nature of phenomena is that greatly blissful state of primordial awareness. So I'm very satisfied by that because what I want is to be free from suffering. I want to be free from illness. I want to be free from obstacles and so on. So how can I become free from that? It is through merging with you, Vajrasattva, into one, just like mixing milk with water, just becoming completely one. And through this oneness, then an experience of great bliss arises. So that's the meaning of Sutukaya me bhava.
다데오도 수프카요 메바와시 다 수프카요 메바와시 수프카요 시바데 지 시베던라 지 시데 쪼보나와 쪼보 다 쪼보다 가래 용을스 메 시든 nga 다 쪼보 용거요 가래가 용거요스나 nga 쪼보 용거 가래 쪼보 용거스나 추런 따라 그 되니 nga 그 닝을 쇼네 되니 nga 그 릭동 랑얀 잘네 릭동 나랑 그 릭부 그 ngo든 잘네 되니 대동기 이시대야 지엔도 되니 주다 이르미 바차도 요리 띵안에 되니 다 간다르 소소세나 리 나세나야 도르제스 바차도요 도르제스 바세 nga 차도요 다테 지바른 조제스
Then, so that was Suttu Kayome Bhava. Next is Suppo Kayome Bhava. And so previously, basically we told him to be satisfied, and now with Suppo Kayome Bhava, I'm satisfied. So now I want to be satisfied and delight. And how am I satisfied? It is because you have entered into my heart, and by entering into my heart, basically merging into one with me, I realize, I will see the nature of my own intrinsic empty awareness. And seeing my true nature, great bliss will arise within me. So this is how I will be satisfied. So then, having merged into complete oneness, then I become Vajrasattva, and Vajrasattva becomes me.
Teni ta tarade ano rakto me bawa sidu ta ngone bidete rakto shibanda chakpa ketongre chakpa na chakpa chimbo darang aran jabar sinju dusuna yore chakpa chimbo sin chakpa chimbo sidu ngone te karasena ninji chimbo los la yore ta nisme bakata ninji chimbo ta songdu jubu ninji chimbo ta te tamje ta ngak simjule ya jabar zu hyo sebe ti tongre is 다 ninji chimbo yishi so jula ya jehos jewan zu je seta ngona la ka no ko yora.
And then this next is Anurakto Mebawa. So this rakto, which came up a few times. So rakto, it means actually great desire, like basically desire, and within desire, great desire. That's how it is also explained in the uttering the names, or expressing the names of Manjushri, the Manjushri Namasamgiti. It says there, what is great desire actually means is great compassion. And great compassion is non-dual compassion, or the unified state of great compassion. So when we say Anurakto Mebawa, then we are then supplicating, may the wisdom of great non-dual compassion arise, but maybe not may, but it's more like an imperative. So make it arise in me.
Teni sawa sede mepa yartsa sede. Ta ngal chod tomong ngudop tanje zors. Ta ngal chod tomong ngudop tamji zedu ta chog ngudop teni tarate sungjuk dewa chimbo 그 ngobo teni dorje samba chado yore tiga kompang togo yore teni tomong ngoda na tsendala ya che dambe chudroba la che kawa demba teni tserengwa neme ba tela soba ke teni ko sambtung tamje teni kimi yindo ndo ya ke tiga tola teni so anda ko yores.
Then Sarva Siddhi Mimprayata. So Sarva Siddhi basically is all the siddhis, and then bestow all the siddhis upon me. And all the siddhis here refers to the two kinds of siddhis, the supreme and the common siddhis. And the supreme siddhi is the state of great bliss, which is the state of Vajrasattva, the state of awakening. So we supplicate him may attain this state of great bliss. And then the common siddhis refers to the various accomplishments. For example, in our Dharma practice, to not encounter any hindrances and to have the fortune to practice the Dharma or to experience a long life free from illness and to accomplish all one's intentions according to one's intentions and so on.
다 데이터 응급 단지 송사되더니 사와 karma 수자 메 스담 히레 그로 홈 시바데 디파르데다 사와스는 탐지라 karma스다 레 탐지 레당 자와 탐지 되니 개발주시 지다지 등악 샘데 다 샘데 거 자원도 우리들 류다 가 탐지 그라 까난기 되니 개와 개와데 되니 소소게지 산제지 공방 드릅네 수수랑원이 잉올라양 때다 산지지 공방을 꾸누바 다 자치산 때리 되니 중산에 있나 되니 다 체령와다 내미 바사와 강드바이나 되니 탈심바 때다 용와라 되니 로바나로 지시 부동로와
Gyarpo sungme. Sitan gyarpo sungme.
지다 샘리 샘 지담스 닝아를 왕아서 닝다 샘니 참리 찍바 거기와
What page is it? I'm losing the track. Okay.
33.
So now then after we have gained all the CDs, so then next Sarva Karma Sutsame Citam Shriyam Guru. So then here, so Sarva Karma is, so Sarva is all and Karma is the actions, so all the actions. And then Sutsame Citam Shriyam, so Sutsame Citta, so Citta here is, Citta is the mind, and so Sutsame Citta Shriyam Guruhung means to make the mind become wholesome or virtuous. And so that is, for example, that means for one's own sake, that is to have the ability to accomplish the state of Buddhahood. And then for the sake of others, it means to have the ability to also help them attain that state. And also, it means to have the ability to accomplish longevity and freedom from illness and basically helping to accomplish all goodness, all virtue.
Guru sedo sedam hire yamsi de gewarwa guru sidun zuje sita derachi je sita derachi de tene karayens da soso gete dorjisam ba gonda nyalne de tine ha ze yedo dan de tara lamji kapswena ndere di dewachimbo ye gawachimbo ye dela ko yo bare Teni tingin zinja wanzina tingin zi yela ko yores. Ta tsu tara tsu hirabanda te kepan jobo we yena. Ma to teni ho hibade ta perna tingin zin nang tingin zin te dorje ta tingin zin te dromindu ta tele ngom sarwaji kayam yo mare ta ngom sar tamje nang ngom sar ndebe nang ndebe chikiteri. Teni tara de gawa ye nang teni tara te gawa ye de yongsu zoba teni gawa ye ge hisoso jule ji endu 다 텔 라스 저바 가양 메디티니 호시 바데 몬서 바 그동을 호시 바데 어때니
So Shriya Guru Shriya that here means the virtue, it is goodness, and Guru here means it means again it's like an imperative, like do it, and then that is followed by 4 ha. The 4 ha in the context of the path are related to the 4 levels of joy or bliss, and also there is in a different context, in the context of samadhi, there is 4 levels of samadhi. But now today we don't have time to go into the detail, so we move on to ho. Ho means to, so it is like within like the most kind of like profound of the profound, the most amazing. the most incredible, the greatest result that is attained. And so when one accomplishes the Vajra-like samadhi, so then this is like the deepest of samadhi, the samadhi of samadhis. And there's nothing greater than like the highest state of samadhi. Basically, it's the fruition of the 4 levels of joy. It's the culmination of the final realization of primordial awareness. And that's expressed by the syllable ho, which means something that is like wondrous or like marvelous.
Tatini banga wen sawatatanga tate hakoguru chumdin de te ginshibwa shibutonrwa. Tini baza mami munzas. Ta tikapsu ta dorje sambala longko dorje samba. Tini chugo dorje samba te chugo dorje samba te tingu yore nisme bak. Ta te ke munza hiba te gaksari ma dorje si ta karetos ngaransu jugi nisinze bang kowa ke bakcha. Teni nisun zimba ke ta chadang ke bakcha yongsu zoba te ma dorne teni beza bawa sedu teni dorji jin hiba ton dorji jin solution dorji simba rwa teni ti kompang ya te yongho shiba ta ti ton maha samaya maha sedu ta chimbora samaya sedu tamsek te la mandane teni sato a shiba te tumba ni chuji yengji rangoni teni nisume betanda ya tokyo shiba ton ta te dordu zenre ke sti ansani ki din nyamne chinki tamje lwal ke traven ke cho no
Digola yang ke shiptra.
ke cho ra gona tan so ikirare ma so.
And then Bhagavan Sarvathatagata, so that is clear. So the Bhagavan is the Buddha, and then Sarvathatagata is all the other Buddhas, the transcendent conquerors. And then Benza Mame Munza, so that is how Vajrasattva has some Bhogakaya manifestation and also a Dharmakaya manifestation. And this one here, Mame Munza here refers to the Dharmakaya manifestation, the non-dual form of Vajrasattva. So that's actually, let's see, a mami, and the munza is again like it means to like an imperative, and so then the imperative is to destroy all samsaric grasping, all dualistic grasping, all karmic imprints of attachment and aversion and so on. And so the next Benza Bhava, that is to attain the state of the Buddha Vajrasattva. And then Maha means great, and Samaya is the commitment, which we said means not to go beyond or not to transgress, so not transgressing the commitment, the great commitment. Then Sattva is Sattva then means the state of emptiness, the dharmata, or the basic space of reality in the non-dual space. And may I attain that state of realizing the basic space of reality. So that's the meaning of the 100-syllable mantra in brief. And so later during the teachings, if you want to learn more about that in detail, then we can do that.
It's all right. For almost 4. Okay. Oh, still has 10 minutes? Oh, thank you. Nga sem de jala lang sa so yang. Alright. Didn't that ta che tang mangbo hyu na ma yu na ti ngondro ko zo de hipta de de ti kaps nga su nyam ni ji bu kaps ni ma re dun ta re ju ne yong ya de da ben ne ni ha ko yong ko do de ni semnang la da zo chi hyu de po ba zhuo wa de ni ka chim bo cha yu chu du de Popa de nge tugumari si de lelo ri dani nyepe lelo. Nge higumari nge tugumari samna tene 님 수직의 주 토그레스는 람키 요마레 람나 추나 이치 토그마레 텐자 타제는 로 팔라마드 드말라미지 되네 다 타랑지 주치네 주
소말라 아말라
아 단다 라고 다 보박 나추나 단다 라브레데 데 점네 군초 좀 시바텔 로테
아말라 지고 말이라
지게 매지게 마제스 다 수소랑 타제는 거네 그 수소 그 수남데 베죠 땅네 tani tanyamle tara hundo ya tham yaborda ka hundo tinane da chapsangji yoya da tambori temen tini char tinane jex yana yang tanda be kala yorot ya boyong yore tini da susu zubo la ta ba o da nga zubo ge da ngane cha sito ma da nga lakba ge mera yo tham da sina tini yang lama namjer yo chog yore ti tarat dorje sembata so 냠린 지 초고 요래 되니 된드 되니 체버드 투미 체버 중으로 세드 잠 초고 셈다 잠니제 장초고 셈 대소라와 된드 제당 훈로로 쭉직 점서를 다 되게 잠니제 장초고 셈데 다 냠도 드르는 용고 요래다 저랑 커피를 강kin제 이나 쳐는 커피 로바나 인제 원다 장초고 셈다 닌제 때 송도 드르는 냠린 지고 요래
커피 드라바 카는 coffee drava kara
coffee pe ya ba
dia pi drava kana
dewa kara yorsna churang coffee la gang khin ji na chona da coffee la cho yo gora chona cho de coffee de chogi di da ga hyu ki ya de ji ro pe na churang dorji samanya le ji ga bo yore de dina cho go gora mse kampor sa to mar ba the
ane coffee kampote tini ti
kampo
coffee kampote tini pe na dor sam da wori
chi cho de mar chanjok sam
chanjosam
장초선의 hinje
chanjosen chura
장초선의 hinje 쳐나 이레스
coffee di
covid 다주 디는 그 따라
kare kanara
디는 제 가슈 들어와냐니
So anyways, we will talk more about everything in detail during the Ngondro teachings, which we will have once a week. But what's really most important is that you have confidence in your mind, that you really feel inspired or enthusiastic. I'm going to do this, and so there's this kind of laziness called the laziness of self-deprecation, where basically you feel you put yourself down and you think that I'm not good enough or I can't do that. You just don't believe in yourself, but that's actually also a form of laziness. And so it doesn't actually, it should be completely disconnected from what anybody else even says. So sometimes even when other people say you can't do it, often we don't think we can. And we just think I can't. And so regardless of all of that, completely putting aside anyone's opinions, including your own, you have to make up your mind and think I'm going to practice this. Even in a Tibetan, we have this saying, you don't even discuss it with your mother, whether you should do it or not. Basically, you don't discuss it with anybody. You make up your mind and you will complete the preliminaries. So this is what you kind of tell yourself, that you can do it. There's no reason not to. And so then the way you do it is that ideally you complete, of course, the whole Ngondro. Or if you can't do it right away, you can just complete one section of the Ngondro and then slowly complete the rest. For example, you can, if you feel that your body is in good shape, then you can, for example, do prostrations, or on the other hand, if you feel that maybe it's hard for you to hold a mandala because of maybe your hand hurts and so on, then you can maybe first do the Guru Yoga practice, or you can do the Vajrasattva practice. And then there's actually also the 3 more preliminaries. They're called the special preliminaries, which are bodhicitta, actually love, compassion, and bodhicitta. So actually in total we have 11 sections to the preliminaries. And so the way you practice it is that you can pick one that you like the most, but then you still need a little bit of the others. For example, if you really like coffee, and then you can't just eat the grains. you definitely want to have some water, even though the favorite part is not the water, the favorite part is the coffee. So then let's say that maybe the water is like bodhicitta, and your favorite part is whatever practice you like to do the most. Like if you, for example, want to do Vajrasattva, then that becomes like the coffee that goes in the water.
다 간다르 조 소소 라왕리 데 드니 다 넘발 서트 흉키 나트니 다 홍로 토만 홍로 요는 렘진로야 데 배야보지 요레 링가 인조 인도 드라베나 야보 요레 드니 넘바 준릉보 제denki 드라 냠리 준릉보 진키 제denki 나야 홍로 요나 야보 요레 세제데 조제게 손에 콘소탈게 라바드솔로 가양 똑바 잡고 스킨 버치 가양 좀 마송시 장초 심벌 라바란 참참 데스 존손의 양식바 제인스 상하데 지면 배 망보지 배 저저거로 다 상하 그 담색 사연 범대로 왔더니 대인자 레라보 송토야 뭐도 송 대인자 가랑 졸랑네 담색 드나 망본다므라 용도고 요래 주냠ling 진기이나야 되니 딱 문도도 값스티 고자마 장장 존 담색 냠자도 된라지야데 대제나 소소르르 나차뉴뇽야다 대첸달라야제 수남진 그 매 삼바 탐진 접시 소소 그 자와레가 탐제라제 랑인 그 코치 좀 된다고 야보 통대와다 드나 용거요레데 데비드 직 첸달 삼나리 지스마니가라 가와삼나야 데 가르침보는 차드 요르데 타마데 양 소소 타제 야름승엔지미지 휴라야데 제요 말데 간다데 제 드나 냠니 지타비아케 레와도 몰라 침보요스
And so maybe a few when you practice the Ngondro, maybe you're completely new to Buddhism and you're just entering. So ideally, if you start with the Ngondro, of course it's up to you, but ideally you would do it with great joy and delight, and really being enthusiastic about it. And now, if you're a long-term Buddhist practitioner, it's still good to do the preliminary practices. Atisha said that now, in terms of how he had kept his vows, so he said that on the pratimoksha level, he said that I have not ever encountered a single obstacle and to my vows. And on the bodhisattva level, sometimes I had a few little obstacles here and there, but I confess them. And on the Vajrayana level, the downfalls were just too many to count, because we speak about, when I say like 100,000 times a million, so like a billion sections of different samaya to be kept. So it's close to impossible to keep them all of these samaya. And so that's why we engage in the preliminary practices to purify our mind from all these obscurations. And in this state, being purified, then we will be more likely to not encounter like illnesses and obstacles in our bodies. And also in this life, we may accomplish our wishes, our activities. So it's from whichever way we regard it, whether it's this or future lives, the preliminaries are really very important. So I'm just encouraging you. Of course, it's totally up to you. You have to decide for yourself. That's what you want to do. I can't tell you that, but sure is my hope and my prayer that you will do this practice.
제바 냠바 메바야 고네 공도 베와요. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Khenpo Tenzin and Ina, for those really helpful, informative, and inspiring teachings. And I'm just going to go over some of the logistics and the structure of the Ngondro retreat practice. So starting on March 20th, that's next Saturday, Khenpo Tenzin will give the first instruction for the refuge prostration Ngondro, starting at 6 a.m. Arizona time. And the reason we have chosen that time is because we have people who have registered for this retreat from 15 different countries, which is fantastic. We so rejoice in this global effort to purify and accumulate merit. And so if Khenpo Tenzin teaches at 6 a.m., then that will work out for everyone around the world. In the Philippines, you will have a 9 p.m. Session, and in Vietnam, it will be 8 p.m., and Bangkok is 8 p.m., and Indonesia is 8 p.m. And then our Dharma brothers and sisters in South America, it will be a very civilized 10 a.m. start. And in Europe, you've got a lovely afternoon start. So it will work for everyone. And then, of course, in the U.S. And Mexico, we will gain a little extra merit for getting up earlier to start the practice. And so for the first session on March 20th, Khenpo Tenzin will lead the practice for the first time, so you can all be familiar with how to do it properly. And then he will give instructions on, more specific instructions on how to do the refuge prostration practice, and he'll be available to answer questions. So it's from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., a 2-hour session, every Saturday for the entire section of the Ngondro practices. So from March 20th to July 3rd, every single Saturday at that same time. And for those who have registered, we will send you a link to join the Zoom meeting, and this is required to attend this meeting with Khenpo. And if you do have a scheduling conflict because of your job, because many of you are doing this part-time and working as well, please let us know, and we will make accommodations for your situation. And the text file will also be sent to you for those who have registered, the Ngondro text that Khenpo Tenzin will teach from. And however, he has recommended that people do purchase an actual book from our web store. So that information will also be in an email that you will receive shortly. And then as far as how to structure your retreat, it's best if you can do 4 practice sessions a day. And that will work for people who are retired and don't have a job. However, those who have part-time jobs or full-time jobs, that will not be possible. And so Khenpo Tenzin has advised that people have to do a mandatory morning session, always has to do 1 session a day, no matter what, to maintain the continuity of the retreat. And so he recommends that that happen in the morning before you start your day. And if you have time, it would be, the next best thing to do would be a morning session and an evening session. And then during the actual day time, you are at your job. And then during the weekends, it would be best to try to do 3 or 4 sessions a day. And that way you can make more progress with your accumulations. So that is, and then ideally, of course, 4 sessions a day, and the recommended times would be 5:30 to 7:30 a.m., and then 9 to 11 a.m., and 2 to 4 p.m., and 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. So all of this will be included in an email that will be sent to you. And if you have any other questions, please continue to send them to registration@garchen.net. And we hope that everyone will join. and we can create immense benefit for all beings everywhere. Thank you so much. Take care. Be well.